Stay here for a while, okay? Don't come out until morning.
To my surprise, my father-in-law, Robert, who wasn't supposed to be able to move without a wheelchair, was standing there. With a stern expression, he said this and then left the basement, leaving me in shock. What is going on? Wait a minute, please. I tried to chase after him in a panic, but the basement door closed right in front of me, and he locked it from the outside. Robert, please let me out of here. I pounded on the door in a panic, trying to get help, but the basement was soundproofed, and no sound could be heard outside. Why on earth? I collapsed helplessly onto the basement floor. I didn't have my phone with me because I had been brought here right after waking up. There was no way to contact the outside world. Ouch, it hurts. Even though I was told to rest, the unexpected situation caused pain in the area where I had surgery. Why did he lock me up here? Was I going to be left like this forever? The thought made me shiver. After a while, something unexpected happened. The basement, about the size of a small room, had furniture like a sofa and a table, and a TV was mounted on the wall. Even though I hadn't touched anything, the TV suddenly lit up, showing a video. What appeared on the screen was so unbelievable that I could hardly trust my own eyes. My name is Alice, and I'm just an ordinary office worker at a regular company. I lost my mom during my school years and was raised in a single-parent household, but my relationship with my dad was strained. He was a workaholic and left all the household matters to my mom, so he probably didn't know how to interact with me. At home, we barely had any conversations. In rebellion against my dad, I moved out right after graduating college. I started working at my current company, and a few years into my job, I had an encounter. I met Aaron, a salesperson at one of our clients, shortly after I joined the company due to a mistake in some documents. I noticed the mistake in the documents Aaron's department had prepared and immediately reached out, and fortunately, we managed to avoid any problems. To thank me, Aaron invited me out for dinner. After a few dates, we started dating and got married 6 months later. When I was unsure whether to invite my estranged father to my wedding, Aaron told me,
There might have been a lot in the past, but maybe the wedding could be a good chance to reconcile. You should invite your dad to the ceremony.
Even though he said that, I wasn't eager. And while I was still unsure, Aaron decided to meet my dad alone and ask him to attend the wedding. Surprisingly, my dad agreed, and it would be the first time I saw him since moving out of parent house. He was pretty awkward with me, but still, he said, "Congratulations on your marriage." At that moment, I realized for the first time how awkward my dad was. Thanks to Aaron's efforts, I was able to reconcile with my dad. However, just as I was feeling happy, my dad suddenly passed away due to an unexpected illness, just 6 months after I married Aaron. If I had known this would happen, I should have made up with him sooner. I'm sorry, Dad. I apologized to my dad in his casket, crying. But my dad couldn't respond anymore. After his funeral, I felt regretful that I couldn't do anything for my parents and was deeply depressed. With both my parents gone, I felt completely alone. But Aaron and his parents comforted me.
From now on, you've got us as your family. You don't need to worry about anything.
That's right. I think of you as my real daughter, Alice, so please rely on us for anything.
Even Aaron's usually quiet and reserved dad nodded at his mom's words. Thanks to them, I was able to overcome my grief over losing my dad and look ahead. However, it later became clear that their kindness was a lie, but at that time, I had no clue about the malice behind their smiles. A few years after my dad's funeral, my father-in-law, Robert, had a self-inflicted car accident while he's driving. Fortunately, his life wasn't in danger, but he injured both of his legs in the accident and ended up in a wheelchair. The police investigation found a problem with the brakes on Robert's car. They said that was probably the cause of the accident. Robert could no longer go golfing, which he loved, and he ended up staying inside the houses all the time. Being stuck at home made him feel down, and he started taking it out on my mother-in-law, Carol, more often. "Are you okay, Carol?" When I went over to their houses, I could see the exhaustion on her face.
He's the one suffering the most. I'm fine.
She took care of Robert devotedly since he couldn't move the way he wanted. To help cheer him up, she decided to start gardening in their yard, hoping the flowers would lift his spirits. Before long, the garden was full of blooming flowers, and it became a topic of conversation around the neighborhood. But despite all her dedication, Robert's stubbornness didn't change. In fact, he became even more insistent on refusing any interaction with others, withdrawing into his room in isolation. Even though Carol said she was okay, taking care of someone is physically exhausting.
Hey, Alice, I've got something to discuss. How about we move in with my parents?
One day, Aaron brought it up. Currently, Aaron and I lived about 10 minutes away by car from his parents' house, just the two of us. His suggestion was for me to quit my job and move in with his parents to help take care of his dad. I've been worried about them too, and I'll do whatever I can. I agreed to Aaron's proposal. After all, I had always wanted to repay the kindness Aaron's parents had shown me when they comforted me after my dad's passing. And so, our life living with Aaron's parents began. However, Robert's condition was much worse than I had imagined. We tried to divide up the care as much as possible. Carol cooked, and I was in charge of delivering the meals and feeding him. Not being able to walk since the accident must have been incredibly stressful, as Robert had become very irritable.
Don't do anything unnecessary.
Whenever I tried to help take care of him, he would often drive me out of his room.
Leave me alone.
He was fussy about other things too. Every day, Carol, who was an excellent cook, made homemade soup for his health, but he wouldn't take even a single sip and instead threw it out the window.
This stuff is undrinkable.
Seeing him trembling with rage and dismissing the soup like that, I found myself at a complete loss. He would eat regular meals, but adamantly refused the soup. But I knew forcing it on him wouldn't make him drink it, so I chose not to push him. Still, I couldn't bring myself to tell Carol that the homemade soup was being thrown out every day. Instead, I kept lying to her. He drank it, and it looked like he enjoyed it.
That soup is really good for him. If he drinks it, maybe he'll become a bit kinder.
It pained me to lie to Carol, who didn't know the truth, but I just couldn't bring myself to tell her. Robert continued to stay shut in his room, showing no signs of change. Even when I spoke to him, there was no trace of the kind Robert he used to be, and all I got were cold replies.
Stop wasting your time caring for an old man like me and just leave. Your forced kindness is just annoying.
He yelled at me to get out more and more, and I felt really down seeing how much he'd changed. Carol suggested that perhaps his injuries from the accident were causing symptoms similar to dementia. Robert was still in his 60s. If it really was dementia, it was way too early. The thought that he might never return to the kind man he used to be made me feel incredibly sad. About 6 months went by like this, and one day, I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my stomach and lost consciousness. When I came to, I was in the hospital, and the doctor diagnosed me with a stomach ulcer. They said it was probably caused by the stress of caregiving. Due to the unexpectedly heavy bleeding, surgery was necessary. I was worried about my in-laws while I was in the hospital, but there was nothing I could do about it if I had to be admitted.
Don't worry about anything at home. Just rest and get better.
Since Aaron told me that, I decided to take him up on his offer. My surgery was successful, but I couldn't go home until the wound healed properly. In the end, I stayed in the hospital for 3 more weeks. Aaron and Carol visited me every few days to check on how I was doing.
Don't worry about things over here. Just focus on getting better.
I'm looking forward to the day Alice comes home.
They both said such kind words to me. But Robert never came to visit, partly because of his bad legs and partly because he clearly disliked me. I felt a little lonely, but I had no choice but to accept it. Would he stay like this forever? Even though he was so harsh, I couldn't bring myself to hate him when I remembered the kind Robert he used to be. Once I got discharged, I planned to do my best to see if we could find some common ground. After a while, my wound completely healed, and I got permission from the doctor to leave the hospital. However, even after returning home, I was told by the doctor to rest for a while. Having been cooped up in the hospital for weeks, I thought I'd move around a lot once I was discharged, but the doctor warned me that was out of the question.
If you don't take it easy, you'll end up back in the hospital.
Hearing that, I promised the doctor with a wry smile. I am resting at home. A few days after finally getting back home, I woke up to a noise. It was the sound of someone knocking on my bedroom door. Since Aaron and I slept in separate rooms, someone had definitely come looking for me. I checked the clock, and it was 2 a.m. Who could possibly need something at this hour? Feeling puzzled, I rubbed my sleepy eyes and opened the door leading to the hallway. Whoa! Suddenly, someone grabbed my arm. The hallway was dark, and I couldn't see who it was. I tried to resist in my confusion and fear, but my body was trembling and I couldn't move properly. I was dragged by this mysterious person into the basement. In my in-laws' basement, there's a room that Robert had built for his karaoke hobby, but it hadn't been used recently, and I had never seen anyone go in there. Who are you? As soon as we entered the basement, the light was turned on, illuminating the room, and I finally saw who had brought me here. To my shock, it was Robert, who supposedly couldn't move without a wheelchair, standing upright.
Stay here for a while, okay? Don't come out until morning.
With a stern expression, he said this and then left the basement, leaving me in shock. What is going on? Wait a minute, please. I tried to chase after him in a panic, but the basement door closed right in front of me, and he locked it from the outside. Robert, please let me out of here. I pounded on the door in a panic, trying to get help, but the basement was soundproofed, and no sound could be heard outside. Why on earth? I collapsed helplessly onto the basement floor. I didn't have my phone with me because I had been brought here right after waking up. There was no way to contact the outside world. Ouch. It hurts. Even though I was told to rest, the unexpected situation caused pain in the area where I had surgery. Why did he lock me up here? Was I going to be left like this forever? The thought made me shiver. However, after a while, something unexpected happened. The basement, about the size of a small room, had furniture like a sofa and a table, and a TV was mounted on the wall. Even though I hadn't touched anything, the TV suddenly lit up, showing a video. What appeared on the screen was so unbelievable that I could hardly trust my own eyes.
She's gone. Where on earth did Alice go?
Could it be that she found out about the plan?
The screen showed Aaron and Carol searching for me around the house. And that wasn't all. Aaron was holding a metal bat, and Carol was gripping a shining knife. It was impossible to see them as the kind Carol and dependable Aaron I knew. They were cursing as they frantically searched the house. Then, in front of the two of them, who were desperately looking for me with an almost demonic expression, appeared Robert, the same one who had just locked me in the basement. but unlike earlier, he was now in his usual wheelchair.
Hey, it looks like Alice ran outside. I just saw a shadow out there.
Damn it. Did we get too hasty? I can't believe she escaped.
Aaron and his mom stomped their feet in frustration.
There's no evidence anyway. Let's think of another plan.
It seemed they agreed with Robert's suggestion. The two of them nodded silently, unaware that I was listening, and began discussing their future plans. Aaron and Carol were both after my inheritance. Actually, I had inherited a large fortune from my late dad, who was quite wealthy. Aaron and Carol were unaware of this fact during my relationship with Aaron, but later they found out about my dad's wealth and took the opportunity to reconcile us. This is unbelievable. From their conversation, I learned that Aaron had suffered a huge loss in stock investments, and Carol had accumulated massive debts from buying luxury goods. Aaron had even been embezzling money from his company to repay his monthly debts. It seemed like the embezzlement hadn't been discovered yet, but from the way he was panicking about needing to pay back the money quickly, it didn't seem like they had much time left.
If we could just get our hands on her money, we could start over. There's no way I'll let her escape.
How could she have found out about our plan? That awful woman. We will find her, no matter what.
They planned to make my death look like a robbery in order to take my inheritance. Believing that I had escaped, they rushed outside to chase after me. After a while, the basement door opened again.
That's the way it is. I'm sorry, but bear with it until morning.
With these cryptic words, Robert closed the basement door once more. Just like before, he wasn't using a wheelchair. He was walking on his own feet. What on earth was going on? No matter how hard I thought about it, I couldn't grasp the full situation. The only thing I understood was that Robert seemed to be on my side, and that his supposed disability was a lie.
Damn it. She got away.
Where did that woman go?
I turned my attention back to the monitor. Aaron and Carol were back in the living room, cursing in frustration.
Looks like she knows our whole plan now. I doubt she's coming back here.
What if she goes to the police?
Relax. There's no evidence. If she had anything, we'd already be in cuffs instead of her barely escaping at the last second.
I guess you're right.
Hearing Aaron's words, Carol smiled, looking somewhat relieved. It was now clear that neither of them had any hesitation about hurting people for money. Seeing this dark side of Aaron and Carol, which I'd never known while living with them, sent a chill down my spine.
Well, the plan's changed, but let's deal with this first.
Carol pointed the knife she was holding at Robert.
Yeah, this one's gonna be easier to handle because he can't run away.
Aaron approached Robert in the wheelchair, holding the metal bat. It seemed that they had decided to change their target to Robert. But what on earth was going on, considering that they had been planning to attack me just moments ago? I had no idea, but since I couldn't get out of the basement, there was nothing I could do. I could only hold my breath and watch the situation unfold through the monitor.
So you're betraying me?
We were originally going to kill you too. Give it up.
The insurance payout is huge, you know. That accident back then was lucky. I never thought you'd survive it.
The two of them revealed that they had planned from the start to kill Robert after me. In fact, the car accident Robert had was because Carol tampered with the brakes. She also admitted that she had been mixing a small amount of poisonous herbs into his soup every day.
Your body is surprisingly stubborn. It took forever for you to get sick. But the poison must have built up by now, enough that you can't fight back when we come after you like this.
Apparently, her sudden interest in gardening wasn't to cheer up his husband. It was to secretly grow poisonous herbs. She had been mixing those herbs into his soup, slowly weakening him to shorten his life.
We're gonna make good use of your insurance money, so just quietly go to the afterlife.
They clearly thought that they could easily get rid of my wheelchair-bound Robert. But just as it seemed he was cornered, Robert suddenly burst out laughing.
Sorry, but I haven't taken a single sip of your soup.
What? But the bowl was always empty.
I knew you were trying to harm me. There's no way I'd drink such suspicious soup. And by the way, I don't actually need this wheelchair.
With that, Robert slowly stood up from his wheelchair. The two of them, who had been acting so confident, were clearly stunned.
What the heck? I thought you couldn't walk.
I was only pretending to be unable to walk to let you drop your guard.
You deceitful coward.
Both Aaron and Carol started cursing him, conveniently ignoring their own actions.
How can you say that? You were willing to harm me and Alice for money. I saw through all your wicked schemes, you greedy devils.
For a moment, Aaron seemed a bit intimidated by Robert's condemnation, but he quickly smirked.
Well, so what if you can walk? It's 2 against 1. Do you really think you can escape?
He wasn't wrong. There was no way a man in his 60s could overpower his son. Even if he wasn't physically disabled, he wouldn't stand a chance against an attack. Aaron moved closer to Robert, wielding the metal bat. Although they were shocked by the fact that he could walk, it didn't seem like they had any intention of abandoning their plan. Robert was in real danger. Feeling helpless, I watched the monitor, completely glued to the scene. But then I noticed something. There was a red light flickering through the living room window. Soon after, several police officers burst into the living room. The red light I had seen earlier was the flashing light from a police car. Caught off guard by the sudden arrival of the police, both Aaron and Carol panicked. The officers assessed the situation and immediately restrained Aaron and Carol, who were both holding weapons.
Why are the police here?
Let me go. I haven't done anything.
The two of them struggled, trying to escape, but the police weren't about to let them get away.
I had already called the police. Alice is being protected in the basement, so you couldn't harm her. Your plan has failed too bad.
Damn it! You sold out your own family.
You were the ones who betrayed me first. Reflect on that while you're behind bars.
You bastard.
Aaron broke free from the police's hold and tried to punch his dad, but he was quickly subdued again.
We're arresting you both for attempted murder.
The police put handcuffs on the two of them. Carol began sobbing softly in shock. Aaron and his mom seemed to realize it was over for them, and they slumped in resignation. After a while, Robert opened the basement door for me. Apparently, Aaron and Carol had been taken away in a police car.
It's all over now, Alice. I'm truly sorry for putting you through such a frightening experience.
Robert apologized to me. Please don't apologize. If you hadn't saved me, who knows what would have happened to me? If he hadn't hidden me in the basement, I would have been attacked by Aaron and Carol. I would have likely lost my life.
They started acting strangely after they learned your father was wealthy. They wanted to kill you and inherit your fortune. It's truly pathetic.
After the accident, Robert had undergone rehabilitation and regained his ability to walk without a wheelchair. But he had pretended to still be injured to deceive Aaron and Carol and make them let their guard down. His cold attitude towards me was also an act to make Aaron and Carol believe he was on their side, so they would include him in their plans. Thinking they had him on their side, they had revealed part of their plan to him,
but I didn't expect them to push you to the point of a stomach ulcer. I'm sorry. If I hadn't done that, they wouldn't have trusted me, so I had to act cold.
With that, Robert apologized once again for everything that had happened. I honestly thought you hated me, and I felt so down. But to think there was a reason behind it all, I'm the one who should apologize for not realizing.
You don't need to apologize. It was all my failure to keep things under control. I almost put you in real danger.
Apparently, Robert had realized fairly early on that Aaron and Carol were targeting my life. He had been waiting for the right moment to ensure they would be caught by the police in the act. I'm planning to visit Aaron soon. I know I could just leave it and never see him again, but I really want to give him a piece of my mind.
I see. You definitely have the right to confront him. Just be careful.
A few days later, I visited the detention center where Aaron was being held. Why did you do something so stupid?
It's your fault. Why did you hide the fact that your dad was rich? That's just not right.
My dad's wealth has nothing to do with me. Thanks to you, I was able to reconcile with him, but I guess it was all just for the money.
Of course it was. Why do you think I was so nice to you? You got a huge inheritance after the funeral. As your husband, I deserve my share. If you had just handed it over, none of this would have happened.
Hearing such a selfish excuse, I regretted coming and sighed deeply. Too bad, but your plan was doomed from the start. My dad's entire estate was donated to a children's care facility according to his will.
No way. You must have inherited the properties and assets. Don't lie.
I turned it down. I suggested donating it because I didn't need it. My dad had told me he intended to leave everything to me. But I thought his enormous wealth could serve a greater purpose in the world than just going to me. So, I asked for all of it to be donated. My dad was quite surprised, but knowing my stubborn personality, he eventually respected my wishes.
How stupid. You threw away enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your life. Stop acting like some self-righteous saint.
He was the kind of person who had no qualms about hurting others for his own gain. Aaron clearly couldn't comprehend my actions at all. Someone as selfish as you would never understand. I gave up the inheritance because I realized I could be happy without money. That's why I didn't tell you. I never imagined it would lead to all of this.
Damn it. Then what the hell did I ruin my life for?
Everything was your own fault. You should think long and hard about the stupidity of chasing a non-existent fortune. Well then, goodbye.
Hey, wait. Alice. Hey.
I ignored Aaron's call to stop and left the room. I would never see Aaron again. The thought made me feel refreshed. Later, Aaron and Carol were prosecuted for attempted murder. Aaron and Carol apparently refused to admit their wrongdoings until the end. But Robert had secretly installed a security camera in the living room and submitted the footage to the police, which served as strong evidence. Furthermore, Aaron was also arrested for embezzling money from his company, and it seemed he wouldn't be able to avoid a lengthy prison sentence. Eventually, I received letters of apology from Aaron and Carol, supposedly to get a reduced sentence, but they were filled with self-serving excuses. Disgusted, I tore the letters up without even replying. Afterward, I hired a lawyer and officially divorced Aaron. Since Robert sold the houses and the land along with them, Aaron and Carol would have nowhere to return to once they got out in a few years. Imagining the bewildered expressions they'd have at that moment gave me a sense of satisfaction. Both Robert and I moved to a distant place. It was to ensure that Aaron or Carol wouldn't be able to harm us if they were ever released. I regularly go to check on Robert.
I can manage on my own. You don't have to worry about me.
Robert always said that out of concern for me, but there was no way I could ignore the man who had saved my life. Please don't say that. I want to be good to you in place of my late dad.
Alice, thank you.
At first, Robert seemed embarrassed whenever I visited, but eventually, as my feelings reached him, he began to openly express his gratitude. Later, I started a new job in the place I moved to, and I ended up getting engaged to a coworker I met there. I invited Robert to my wedding and introduced him to my future husband as the person who had saved my life. Even now, as I build a new family, my relationship with Robert continues. If he hadn't deceived Aaron and Carol and saved me that day, I wouldn't be experiencing this happiness now. Though I came to understand the fear of people blinded by money, I also gained a respectable person like Robert in my life. Now, I am carrying a new life inside me. After my baby is born, I plan to visit Robert and introduce him to the newest member of our family.